Have you ever imagined walking through a quiet field, feeling the cold wind brush your skin, and suddenly having the strange sensation of being watched by someone who hasn't been alive for over 150 years? What if I told you that in certain parts of the United States, particularly Alabama and Georgia, the American Civil War never completely ended? Sure, the battles have long since ceased, but the stories, the memories, and by many accounts, even the ghosts of the soldiers still linger. Are they just figments of imagination, or are they truly wandering the very places where they fell in battle? What you're about to discover may surprise you. The Civil War was one of the bloodiest periods in American history, leaving millions dead and deep scars across the country. Alabama and Georgia played central roles in this conflict, serving as the stage for devastating battles and home to cities that were transformed into veritable open-air cemeteries. These states carry stories of courage, pain, betrayal, and tragedy. Perfect ingredients for the birth of dark legends and supernatural apparitions that still intrigue residents and visitors to this day. Stay with me until the end, because the stories you'll hear here are chilling and will make you wonder if the echoes of war truly can transcend time. In Alabama, many claim to hear ghostly footsteps in the ruins of old forts and prisons, as well as sighting spectral figures of Confederate soldiers still marching beneath the moon. In historic hospitals that served as care facilities for the wounded, there are reports of ghostly nurses who continue to care for their patients even centuries later. Could these souls be trapped in the same suffering they experienced in life, endlessly reliving their final days? Have you ever felt this, feeling an inexplicable chill in an old place, as if sharing space with invisible presences? But don't think Georgia is behind in this duel of hauntings. Known for its historic cities and iconic battlefields, the state is rife with reports of terrifying apparitions. At the legendary Chickamauga battlefield, for example, there are stories of the headless ghost, a soldier still seen wandering in search of the head lost in battle. And in Savannah, a city marked by old mansions and cobblestone streets, many swear they've seen apparitions in old mansions that served as war hospitals, places where human suffering reached unimaginable levels, and which, according to some beliefs, were never abandoned by the souls who perished there. Each of these states has its own arsenal of chilling stories, and now, you're about to enter a true supernatural battle, Alabama versus Georgia, in a contest to discover which state is most haunted by the Civil War. The stories we'll explore are based on historical accounts, local legends, and modern-day testimonies, creating a deep dive into a past where fear, tragedy, and mystery live on. Get ready, because what follows will stir your imagination and perhaps even your beliefs about what happens after death. So, are the ghosts of the Civil War still with us? It's time to begin this dark journey through the haunted heart of the United States. And as we delve into these chilling stories from Alabama and Georgia, I'd love to hear what you feel when you hear stories like these. Have you ever visited a historic site and felt that strange sensation of being watched? Or perhaps you know someone who's experienced something they can't explain. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most so far. Sharing your opinion or experience helps build a true community of people who, like you, are fascinated by ghost stories and supernatural mysteries. And look, every comment, every like, and every subscription here on the channel makes a huge difference in helping us continue bringing you more content like this, exploring legends, historical sites, and phenomena that defy logic. When you interact with the video, it reaches more people who also love this universe of mysterious stories. It's as if each of you helps keep this flame of curiosity for the unknown alive. So, if you're enjoying this journey through the haunted side of history, leave a like right now and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes of these supernatural battles that are yet to come. Your participation is what makes this channel grow and reach more and more people who want to discover what lies behind ancient legends and timeless apparitions. Together, we'll create a space where history and the supernatural meet, a place for those who feel chills just imagining that perhaps certain souls never truly departed. Now, hold on tight, because what we'll explore next will take you even deeper into this ghostly feud between Alabama and Georgia. The American Civil War was much more than a series of bloody battles. It represented a profound transformation in the mindset of a country still trying to define itself, torn between two ways of life, two visions of the future, and political decisions that would forever change the history of the United States. Alabama and Georgia were at the heart of this conflict, bearing scars on their lands that have never been completely erased. Forts, hospitals, battlefields, and even entire small towns became scenes of pain, loss, and dashed hope. And it is precisely in these places that some of the darkest legends of the American South were born. When we walk through these historic spaces, it is as if we are peering behind the scenes of a past that still whispers its stories, as if every stone and every tree held a hidden truth that not everyone is ready to see. Many historical scholars say that the Civil War was, above all, a clash of identities, and this was reflected in the intensity of suffering on each side. For the soldiers who fought in these battles, the line between life and death was extremely tenuous, and with each confrontation came the uncertainty of whether they would see their families again. Alabama, for example, had several cities transformed into strategic points, such as Montgomery, which was the first capital of the Confederacy. It was a city pulsating with political and military decisions, where the fate of thousands of lives was determined. This historical weight seems to have left something imbued in the streets, a kind of dense energy that many say they feel to this day. In Georgia, places like Atlanta and Savannah were targets of devastating military campaigns, especially during the famous March to the Sea, led by General William Tecumseh Sherman. This brutal offensive destroyed not only the infrastructure, but also the spirits of thousands of inhabitants. Imagine seeing your city, your home, everything you knew reduced to ashes, while the sound of cannons and screams echoed everywhere. It's easy to understand why so many stories of apparitions arose from these traumatic memories. It's said that in certain old houses in Savannah, you can still hear the wails of wounded soldiers and see shadows passing through the windows, as if these souls had never found peace. The most curious thing is how these stories, beyond being frightening, connect us to something deeper. They remind us that decisions made in the past impacted not only the course of history, but the lives of each individual who was there. Each ghost, each reported apparition, is also a symbol of a time marked by irreparable losses, interrupted dreams, and futures that never came to be. Some say these souls continue to wander because they have something to reveal, as if they were part of a hidden truth that has never been fully told. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we look at Alabama, we discover stunning stories about places that seem frozen in time. In Cahaba, the former state capital, ruins of buildings and abandoned streets create a perfect backdrop for spooky legends. Many visitors report feeling a strange presence, as if the ghosts of soldiers and civilians still walk the grounds, reliving their final moments. The site housed one of the region's most notorious prisoner of war camps, where thousands of men suffered in horrific conditions. It's almost impossible to walk there without feeling the emotional toll of everything that happened. Fort Morgan, another landmark, was the scene of intense battles at the end of the war. There are reports of voices, footsteps, and even sightings of soldiers in old uniforms, described as pale, motionless figures staring into space. Some of these stories have been reported by local historians and even paranormal investigation teams, which only adds to the aura of mystery. It's as if the energy of each battle still lingers in the air, reminding us that certain places hold vivid memories, even centuries later. The most fascinating thing is that the more we learn about these stories, the more we realize they're not just scary tales. They're fragments of a collective journey, scars from a time when every decision had irreversible consequences. It's as if each ghost were a trace of choices that defined the course of an entire country. And understanding this makes us reflect on the weight of our own decisions, and how the past is never truly dead. It lives on in every detail, in every memory, and perhaps in every shadow that still moves at night in these historic places. Let's go delving deeper into Alabama's history. We realize that this state holds much more than memories of war. It harbors scenes where the past seems to have refused to go away, places that are true portals to a time when fear, courage, and despair coexisted. Montgomery, once the nerve center of the Confederacy, carries with it an almost palpable historical energy. Walking its streets is like walking behind the scenes of decisions that shaped the trajectory of an entire country. Decisions that cost lives and left emotional scars that still echo in the collective memory. There are reports of spectral soldiers marching in silence, pale figures that appear and disappear before the eyes of those who dare explore these places at night. Many residents claim that these ghosts are like guardians of a hidden truth, silent witnesses to a past that lives on. In Cahaba, the ancient capital forgotten by time, the scene is even more striking. The ruins, covered in moss and twisted trees, seem to hold secrets no one has ever been able to unravel. The city, once a symbol of hope and prosperity, became the stage for tragic stories during the war. The prison camp that existed there was one of the most feared, a true portrait of human suffering. They say that on the quietest nights, you can hear murmurs, footsteps, and even the creaking of invisible doors, as if echoes of that dark period still wander the deserted streets. This feeling of being watched, of sharing space with something that no longer belongs to this world, is frequently described by visitors and ghost hunters who explore the region in search of answers. Another spot steeped in mystery is Fort Morgan. The fort, which played a key role in decisive battles, is today one of the most well-known sites for reports of apparitions. Soldiers dressed in period uniforms are seen walking along its walls, while the sounds of gunfire and explosions echo, even when everything around them is completely silent. Some reports come from people who knew nothing about the site's history, but who, upon visiting, felt unexplained chills, heard distant voices, or even saw figures vanishing into thin air. This raises a fascinating question. Do certain places retain the intense emotions experienced there, as if the ground had absorbed the fear, anger, and pain? These stories make us reflect on how humanity's journey is marked by choices that generate lasting impacts. Every battle fought, every life lost, every tear should shape not only the destiny of a country, but also an emotional legacy that seems to have withstood the test of time. It's as if the apparitions were fragments of living memories, insistently reminding us that the consequences of our decisions never completely disappear. There's something deeply human about these legends. They're not just scary stories, but reminders that the past is never as distant as we imagine. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the more we understand these narratives, the more we realize they carry hidden lessons. The Alabama hauntings are like silent witnesses to a period of radical transformation, in which the mentality of an entire nation was put to the test. And this connection to the past awakens in us a mixture of fascination and respect. The fear we feel when hearing these stories is, in a way, the same fear they felt in the face of uncertainty, loss, and imminent death. It's as if, by listening to these accounts, we can touch a glimpse of the pain and courage that shaped that historic moment. These haunted places show us that history isn't just a distant timeline. It's made up of real people, with emotions, dreams, and tragedies. When we walk through Cahaba or explore Fort Morgan, we're not just visiting ruins. We're connecting with fragments of lives cut short, with decisions that came at an unthinkable price. This reminds us that, even amid destruction, there's always something that remains. Memories, emotions, perhaps even spirits that still walk among us. And it's in this encounter between the visible and the invisible that we realize how the past can still influence the present, as if there were an invisible thread connecting what was to what we are today. When we look more closely at Alabama's ghost stories, we realize they're not just spooky tales or simple local folklore, but a complex tapestry of emotions, memories, and transformations that reflect the deep wound left by the Civil War. Each apparition, each unexplained sound, seems to carry an emotional impact that goes beyond fear. It's an echo of the decisions that shape the fate of thousands, a reminder that the human journey is filled with moments that never completely dissipate. The most powerful stories are those that manage to connect past and present, making the viewer feel as if, even if only for a few moments, they are sharing the same space with those who suffered intensely. This is the case of the ghost nurses that many believe still roam the corridors of old military hospitals. Stories tell of these spectral figures appearing to care for the wounded, as if their mission had never ended. This idea touches something deep within us, the notion of dedication, sacrifice, and a service mentality that transcends the barriers of life and death. It's a transformation of the concept of care, which becomes almost sacred when we imagine that love and compassion can exist even on an invisible plane. And if you've ever felt the presence of someone who isn't physically there, you know how powerful and even comforting that feeling can be, even in the face of the unknown. Furthermore, these apparitions serve as bridges between historical truth and the human emotions trapped in that time. Often the accounts are accompanied by letters, diaries, or old documents that reinforce the authenticity of the experiences. creating a link between real facts and what goes beyond common understanding. It's as if, through these stories, the ghosts are trying to tell us something that the pages of written history cannot express. The human dimension, the pain, the fear, but also the hope that survives even amid destruction. This additional layer of meaning makes the legends of Alabama more than simple scare stories. They are an invitation to reflect on the real impact of war on people's lives and the weight of the decisions that shaped American history. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because, if we think about it, these stories reveal a lot about the mindset of an era facing radical transformations. The Civil War wasn't just an armed confrontation. It was a battle of ideas, values, and identities that left invisible scars on the country's collective soul. The fact that so many reports of apparitions are linked to places of suffering and death is no coincidence. There's something almost symbolic about these ghosts, as if they were the physical manifestation of a journey of pain, loss, and a search for redemption that still echoes in the shadows of history. This connection between the physical and the spiritual, between past and present, is one of the most fascinating revelations we can explore when trying to understand what makes these places so special and mysterious. Furthermore, this wealth of stories leads us to reflect on the power of narratives and cultural legacy. In Alabama, ghost legends not only entertain but also educate and preserve the collective memory of an era that cannot be forgotten. They invite each of us to deeply reflect on what it means to carry the past, on how traumatic experiences can transform into something that transcends time. These stories also remind us that, even in the face of devastation, there is an invisible thread connecting generations, allowing history to live on through emotions and memories, perpetuating a mindset of respect and care for what has already been experienced. And when we consider what these stories represent for the people who live near these places, we understand that their impact goes far beyond the supernatural. These stories are part of local identity, influencing how communities relate to their own past and culture. It's as if these ghosts are a constant presence that defies oblivion, forcing us to remember and revisit the past in a much more intimate and emotional way than any history book could. This relationship between people and what we call hauntings is, in a way, proof of the power stories have to transform not only our perception of the past, but also the way we understand ourselves and our own journey. When we cross the border and arrive in Georgia, the scenery changes, but the intensity of the stories remains. This state holds a very special place in the heart of Civil War history, not only for its strategic importance, but for the emotional weight its battlefields and cities carry to this day. Savannah, Atlanta, Chickamauga, each name evokes images of resistance, fierce struggle, and of course, a transformation that shaped the mindset of an entire generation. Georgia is not just a state marked by history. It is a true time capsule where the past seems to breathe through the old streets, the historic mansions, and the silent fields, where war left scars that time has not been able to erase. This connection between the historical and the supernatural is much more than mere coincidence. What makes Georgia so fascinating is precisely this intimate relationship between the reality of events and the manifestations that, according to reports, still occur there. On the Chickamauga battlefield, for example, the stories never cease to amaze. Many visitors claim to have seen a figure known as the Headless Ghost, an apparition that seems to defy the laws of logic and carries with it an enormous symbolic charge. The loss, sacrifice, and violence of war, transformed into a presence that haunts the present. It's impressive how the human mind can interpret and transform these energies into stories that, while frightening, reflect the profound journey of a nation in crisis. The mindset of those who live near these places is, in some ways, shaped by these narratives. The feeling is of living daily with the invisible impact of decisions and battles that altered the course of history. In Savannah, for example, the former role of a port city transformed into a field hospital during the war leaves traces that go beyond historical records. Reports of ghosts in mansions that became care centers for the wounded bring to light not only a fear of the supernatural, but also a reverence for the dedication and sacrifices made there. This fusion of emotions and facts creates a unique atmosphere, where the past never truly seems distant. The hidden truth behind these apparitions may lie precisely in how these places are able to preserve human emotions and experiences, even after so long. It's as if the impact of the war has been etched not only in people's memories, but in the very fabric of the environment. This insight opens up a vast array of possibilities for those who wish to understand how the supernatural can be connected to the backstage of history, bringing to light revelations that go beyond official records. These stories aren't just meant to scare. They're an invitation to deep reflection on what endures, even when we think everything is over. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because if we look at Georgia's most haunting narratives, we'll find a wealth of details that speak directly to our imagination and our perception of what is real and what is mysterious. Witnesses to these phenomena speak of unexplained sounds, strange lights, and apparitions that defy any logical explanation. These accounts, when combined with the historical weight of the locations, create an almost cinematic effect, a true immersion in the journey of souls trapped between past and present, trying to communicate something we can't fully understand. The impact of these experiences lies not only in their surprise or fear, but in the way they challenge our understanding of reality and invite us to question the fine line that separates the visible from the invisible. It is at this boundary that stories come to life, that decisions made over a century ago continue to reverberate, and that the transformation from history to myth takes place. The power of these narratives lies in their ability to create deep emotional connections, which go beyond simple curiosity about the supernatural and reach the core of human experience. And that's why Georgia holds a special place in the collective imagination, not only as a historic battleground state, but as a stage where the impact of war, the mindset of an era, and the decisions that shape the future intertwine with the mysterious, the occult, and the inexplicable. This unique combination makes Georgia a true benchmark when we think of haunted places, especially in the context of the Civil War. Georgia, with its rich and complex history, holds within its corners the most chilling tales and apparitions that, to this day, defy explanation. When we think of the ghosts linked to the Civil War that haunt this state, we are faced with accounts that carry an intense emotional charge. A true journey into the past, filled with pain, loss, and a transformation that shook the minds of an entire population. What makes these stories so fascinating is that they are not simply frightening narratives, but manifestations of a profound impact, of a hidden truth that insists on remaining alive. Savannah, for example, is much more than an old city with its cobblestone streets and colonial architecture. It was a nerve center during the Civil War, serving as a makeshift hospital and shelter for the wounded and desperate. In the mansions that became hospitals, reports of apparitions have emerged that seem not only to frighten, but to communicate something much greater, a silent testament to the struggle, suffering, and courage of those who lived there. Witnesses speak of shadows moving through the windows, of low voices that seem to lament amid the silence, and even of spectral figures appearing to tend to the wounded, as if the mission had never ended. These narratives carry an emotional weight, an impact that goes beyond the supernatural. They bring us closer to the behind the scenes of history, revealing the decisions and circumstances that led to the creation of these presences. The mentality of the time, marked by urgency, fear, and hope, is present in each account. Understanding these stories is understanding how war shaped not only the territory, but also the emotions and human experiences lived there. Experiences that, according to many, still echo through the walls of these historic sites. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we talk about Georgia legends, especially in places like the Chickamauga battlefield, we enter a territory where reality and mystery blend in a striking way. The Headless Ghost, one of the region's most iconic figures, is more than a frightening apparition. He symbolizes the devastating impact of war and the irreparable loss that marked generations. This wandering figure represents a hidden truth about the fragility of life and the immense transformation that the Civil War imposed on the country. In addition to apparitions, there are reports of unexplained phenomena, such as gunshots, distant voices, and strange movements, which have been documented by ghost hunters and historians dedicated to investigating these places. These revelations offer a glimpse behind the scenes of a story that goes far beyond what books can tell, a story made of emotions and decisions that had a profound and lasting impact. The presence of these accounts creates a powerful connection between past and present, demonstrating that history is not static, but a living journey that still reverberates in the souls and places where it all happened. It's fascinating to think that, amidst so much destruction and suffering, there are places where the energies of the past seem to manifest themselves in such intense ways. This journey through Georgia is, above all, a reflection on the power of stories to transform our perception of the world, to make us question what lies beyond the visible, and to connect us with the human essence that persists despite time. What we learn from these stories is not just about ghosts, but about how profound human experiences shape our reality and leave marks that can last forever. These stories, charged with emotion and mystery, not only attract the curious, but also strengthen the sense of identity and memory of local communities. They are an invitation to revisit the past with attentive eyes and an open heart, to discover that, often, what appears to be mere legend has roots in real events, full of nuances and meanings that invite us to think more deeply. The true journey lies in understanding that the impact of war extends far beyond the battles, reaching the invisible dimensions of human and spiritual existence. When we begin to compare the haunting stories and legends of Alabama and Georgia, it's impossible not to wonder, which of these states truly holds the title of most haunted by the Civil War? This question, which may seem simple at first glance, actually opens the door to a much deeper reflection on how we interpret the impact of the past, the meaning of our decisions, and the way history lives on, not just in books, but in places that still bear the marks of time. The confrontation between these two regions is not just a dispute over who has the most intense ghosts. It is a journey to the heart of a transformation that shaped the mindset of an entire nation, leaving invisible traces that many feel to this day. What differentiates Alabama and Georgia in the context of these supernatural stories is precisely the impact the Civil War had on each of these places. Alabama, with its former capitals and prison camps, seems to carry an emotional weight linked to the pain of loss and the silent suffering of thousands who lived behind the scenes of a relentless war. The sense the accounts convey is of a past that insists on remaining present, almost as a way of keeping alive the memory of those forgotten by official history. Georgia, on the other hand, with its more exposed battlefields and its cities marked by violent transformations, seems to harbor ghosts that represent the strength of resistance, the brutality of destruction, and the hope that stubbornly survived even in the face of chaos. This comparison isn't just a curiosity for lovers of the supernatural. It challenges us to think about how human emotions and experiences can leave a lasting impact on the world around us. What makes a place haunted isn't just the ghost stories, but the depth of the emotions that remain there, trapped between past and present. It's as if every stone, every tree, and every ruin were silent witnesses to decisions that changed the course of history, and that still reverberate through time, reminding us that humanity's journey is full of difficult lessons and choices that can never be forgotten. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the comparison between Alabama and Georgia leads us to discover something fascinating about the nature of memory and the emotional impact that certain places can have on us. While Alabama seems to preserve the stories of those who suffered in silence, those who were victims of the consequences of war, Georgia brings to light the intense battles, the drastic decisions, and the visible consequences of the transformation of a society in crisis. This contrast reveals much about the complexity of the human experience and how different types of suffering and resistance can create different forms of presence in the world. Furthermore, by analyzing these stories side by side, we begin to realize that the impact of historical events extends far beyond the surface. It's as if the ghosts haunting these states are physical manifestations of the emotions and internal conflicts that still inhabit the region's collective mind. They remind us that history is not just a sequence of events, but a journey filled with backstories, revelations, and hidden truths that shape who we are today. These stories not only fuel the popular imagination, but also serve as an invitation to reflect on how our own decisions today can have an impact that will extend far beyond our time. The clash between Alabama and Georgia, then, becomes a powerful metaphor for the struggle between past and present, between the visible and the invisible, between what we choose to remember and what we insist on forgetting. By placing these states face to face, we are challenged to face not only the ghosts of war, but the inner ghosts each of us carries, the fears, regrets, hopes, and desires that are part of the human experience. This phantasmagoric battle, full of tension and emotion, is a mirror of life itself, where decisions and transformations shape our journey and define the legacy we leave behind. When we begin to examine the investigations and expert reports of paranormal phenomena in Alabama and Georgia, we realize that the mystery goes far beyond what popular stories tell us. These accounts carry a different weight because they are backed by people who have dedicated their lives to exploring the hidden depths of the unknown, seeking evidence that can confirm or refute what many consider merely legend or imagination. Ghost hunters, historians who cross-reference ancient data with modern accounts, and even scientists trying to understand these manifestations, offer a unique perspective on how the mindset of the time and the decisions made during the Civil War may have left a lasting energetic impact on these places. These investigations yield fascinating revelations about how certain places managed to store emotions and traumatic experiences, almost as if they were invisible archives of history, guarding hidden truths that only manifest themselves at specific moments. Technological equipment used in the research, such as electronic voice recorders, thermal cameras, and motion sensors, captured sounds, images, and changes in the environment that defy logical explanation. In Alabama, for example, reports of whispered voices and mysterious footsteps in former war hospitals are frequent, while in Georgia, rapidly moving shadows and sudden appearances on battlefields impress even the most skeptical. But what do these phenomena really mean? Are we witnessing manifestations of trapped souls, or perhaps residual energies that have remained in place? The hidden truth behind these questions opens an even deeper discussion about the nature of time, memory, and consciousness. The idea that the past can overlap with the present, creating a kind of temporal superposition where ancient events are relived in inexplicable ways, challenges our traditional understanding of reality. This leads us to reflect on how history is not just a sequence of events, but a continuous journey, full of revelations yet to come. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because, by exploring these phenomena from the expert's perspective, we begin to understand that the mindset of those who lived through the Civil War, their fears, decisions, and suffering, may have left such an intense energetic mark that it still influences the environment. This insight connects us behind the scenes of a crucial moment in history, showing that the impact of dramatic events goes far beyond the visible, reaching dimensions we are only beginning to comprehend. The transformation that took place in those bloody years was not just political or social, it was also spiritual and energetic, and it is this layer that still seems to echo in the haunted places. These investigations also reveal how much we are facing a phenomenon that transcends the traditional supernatural. Many experts suggest that what we perceive as ghosts may actually be a manifestation of Earth's own memory, a kind of living record of the human emotions that were most intense there. This perspective brings a new mindset to understanding what haunting is, moving away from fear and toward a deeper understanding of the impact that human decisions have on the world we inhabit. It is an opportunity to re-examine our own relationships with the past and with places that carry powerful stories. Furthermore, this research shows us that the phenomenon of haunting is not exclusive to places with ancient tragedies, but can be found in many places where human emotion reached its peak. The difference between Alabama and Georgia in this context is that the Civil War was one of the most profound transformations in American history, and its impact was so great that it seems to have left an invisible but palpable trace. This finding reinforces the idea that the past is never truly buried. It lives in every decision we make, in every emotion we experience, and sometimes it manifests itself to remind us of the weight of our collective journey. These revelations are powerful because they allow us to view history not simply as a set of dates and facts, but as a living web of emotions, decisions, and consequences that continue to shape our present. They invite us on a journey of reflection about the impact our own choices can have, and how history, even when filled with pain, can be a source of learning and transformation. It is at this point that mystery ceases to be merely something to evoke fear and becomes a path to better understanding the complexity of the human experience.